Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at some r/PettyRevenge. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get started. Builders dump stuff in front of my office door. Builder's lunch now paints the walls. I work alone in a small office in a public building that is undergoing some renovations while it's closed to the public. There is an office space in front of my office that is usually unoccupied. Think of an office space with a manager's office attached to the end. I just rent the manager's office. Building managers were supposed to notify us if they ever intended to rent out the space in front of my office, so we could build a temporary wall or something, so I didn't need to walk through someone else's office to get to mine. But I guess they thought they didn't need to do this because the builders are only there temporarily. Now the space is occupied by the site office for construction. I'm slightly annoyed at the building management for not notifying me of this, but I'm way more annoyed at the builders because the space has turned into a dumping ground. To get to my office I have to walk past light fixtures, tool bags, random chairs in the walkway and a toilet bowl. And I have to listen to builders talking crap while 12 of them sit in a room fit for 5 having lunch. It's like a teenager's bedroom, but instead of clothes and stale socks, the floor is covered in building materials and tools. I ask them to keep it clear as it's the walkway to my office and not a storeroom, and they say sure, but basically roll their eyes at me and do nothing. So I took some pictures of the mess and reported it to building management. 1 week later they tidied it up slightly and gave me a sassy, "We cleaned up a bit here for you, mate. No need to thank us," as I walked in that morning. A few days later and it was almost worse than it was before, to the point I couldn't leave my office without moving 4 boxes of supplies out from directly in front of the door yesterday. I also hear them whispering about how I'm such a C and a stuck-up public servant. I'm private sector, but whatever. Cut to today, I got to step out to get a coffee and before I opened the door, I looked through the window of the door to see someone's half-eaten spaghetti sitting on the floor right in front of the doorway. I lose my composure for a moment and say flip it, open the door and trip on the bowl of spaghetti, causing it to spray all over the room and the 2 builders in the room. Spaghetti gets on everything. Sauce on the computers, noodles in the bloody toilet bowl, it's in the carpet and most impressively, all over the builders. They start to shout at me, but I get just as mad saying, "Who the hell puts a bowl of spaghetti on the floor in the front of a door?" I kind of snapped at this point and started lambasting them, which is very out of character for me. I told them, "This is an office, not a storeroom," and "You're worse than my teenage nephew," and told them to clear their stuff up or I'll start kicking everything else that's in the path, delicate or not. They sheepishly say yes and I go get my coffee. When I return, no one is in the office and the mess is still on everything. I think they wiped the laptops down. But I don't care at this point and retreat into my office and focus on work. Fast forward a few hours and I get an email from the building management. I crack a huge smile as I read an email basically saying, "The builders reported your conduct and had us come inspect the damage. However, we noticed the unacceptable amounts of mess in the office space had not been cleared up from the last time we asked them to, and they admitted the food was placed on the floor in front of the doorway, so we expect them to clean up the mess, pay for cleaning and place no blame on you in this case. If the mess comes back, call us directly, as they are on their last warning from a few other incidents in the building." It was a longer and more official email, but you get the point. So now I'm occasionally looking through the window on the door while builders crawl around on their hands and knees scrubbing spaghetti out of their carpet. I'm not proud of losing my cool and handling things the way I did, but I won't deny that it worked, and it felt really good. You wanna slightly insult me? I'll slightly ruin your flight. This is something I am surprisingly proud of and easily the most petty thing I've done in my life. About a year ago I was on a short domestic flight, around 3-4 hours. I was seated towards the front of the flight and lined up the board when they called for my group. I saw I had a window seat, and as I saw where I was sitting, I noticed an older woman in the aisle seat of my row, and who I learned to be her daughter, maybe late 40s, in the middle seat. I let them know I was sitting next to the window and apologized for making them up so I could sit down. The older lady didn't seem to understand what I was saying at first, and she just kept smiling at me, until her daughter told her to get up because they have to let me get past it. The older woman got up and told me not to worry about it, but her daughter seemed extremely annoyed when she told her to move for me. I didn't mind at all and apologized once more for being too big to fit past them without them having to get up. And once again the older lady gave me a big smile and told me not to worry about it. Unfortunately, the daughter was nowhere near as happy as her mother. This is the point where the daughter started to fire off comments to her mother that were directed at me. Pissed off at the fact that since I have a window seat, I should have been on the plane before them, so they didn't have such a hassle to get back up after they were already seated, etc. Her mother, though, didn't seem to pay her any mind. I just ignored her tirade. I did feel guilty that I made them, especially the older lady with the big smile, get up for me. But when the daughter saw her mother was ignoring her, she started to look for anyone around us that she could complain about me to. She even asked the flight attendant for a glass of wine because this silly moron next to her had stressed her out. I put my headphones in and occasionally would pause the movie I was watching on my phone to check if she was still complaining about me. Now, I usually have to put up with comments and slight insults for work. I've been called a lot worse before, and honestly, being called a silly moron is more humorous than anything, so I was just going to let it slide. That's when I noticed, as we reached flying altitude, that she was trying to see out the window to look down on the city we were leaving. Immediately, I hunched myself forward to block her from seeing out the window and kept watching my movie. Initially, I planned to block the window for about 20 minutes, but 20 became 30, 30 became 45, and I thought, what the hell, I'm going to fully commit to hunching in front of the window for the entire flight. I saw her getting annoyed, but I blasted my volume, held in my pee, skipped the mid-flight snack and drinks, and continued to block the window until we landed. It was definitely worth it. I got owned by my 7th grade music teacher. As a teen, I was the bad kid in school that always lipped off to the teachers and had a huge chip on my shoulder. I wish I could go back and treat people differently, but I can't. In 7th grade, I was really into skateboarding, smoking cigarettes, skipping class with my friends, etc. When I did go to class, I was disruptive at best. My music teacher, old Mrs. Grenner, had tried everything to get me to shut up and leave her class alone. Meetings with parents, detentions, extra homework, she tried it all. Or so I thought. Every day in between classes there would be announcements on the loudspeaker. What's for lunch, sporting events coming up, academic achievements, whatever. On this day, the assistant principal was listing the 7th grade students of the month for different categories: math, science, critical issues, and the student of the month for music studies is my name. I froze in the hallway, sure I was just hearing things. Then my friends started finding me in the hallway, just roasting me for being such a good boy, teacher's pet, etc. I went to music class that day and, with the biggest shit-eating grin on her face, Mrs. Grenner had the whole class stand up and give me a round of applause for being such a great student in her class. I don't believe I've ever been more embarrassed in my life. Even at 12 I knew what she was doing and that she had just completely owned me. I behaved the rest of the year in her class, and I like to think that taught me a lesson. Your teacher was playing 5-dimensional chess, and OP was playing checkers. Neighbor didn't like how I did my own lawn. I moved into my house around the same time as my next door neighbors, new construction neighborhood. We both do our own lawns. They bag their cuttings, I self-mulch, leave the cuttings mulched on the lawn and don't bag. One day I mow the lawn and leave for some errands. I come home to the cuttings I had left on the lawn, all raked up and thrown all over my front porch/door with a threatening note telling me if this ever happened again and I didn't do my lawn properly from now on, there would be consequences and it would be worse next time. I went over to my neighbor's house, told her I would call the police for threatening me if she ever tried a stunt like this again, and the next time she had a problem, maybe try talking with me like an adult, and gave her my phone number. Her husband apologized and said his wife was batshit crazy and he was really sorry. Wife never apologized. I then promptly didn't mow the front lawn for over 6 months. No HOA. I made sure to mow the backyard and make a display of bagging those cuttings and carrying them out front for the neighbor to see, but left the front nice and overgrown. I also ended up having her car towed from in front of her own house. Coincidentally, code enforcement can't force you to mow your own lawn, but if you leave a vehicle on the street for over 72 hours without moving it, they'll impound. $600 later, she got her car back and I haven't heard a peep from her. Okay, that's about it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe subscribe, maybe like. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.